Welcome back to today's video. Today is Wednesday, August 26th, 2020, and today I'm going to be taking a look at a 2020 Senate map and talking about how the Democrats are on track to pick up at least 4 seats. So this would ultimately end up with a net gain of 3 because the state of Alabama moves over in favor of the Republican Party with the Democrat incumbent, Senator Doug Jones. He spoke at the DNC twice. But looking at the overall Senate map, the Democratic Party has numerous pathways to getting the majority from the Republicans, and looking at a number of these swing states, it isn't too hard to draw a conclusion that they will pick up, probably 4 seats. Let's go ahead and take a look at which states that I believe the Democratic Party will win as it stands today. Now, based off of our current Senate map, the Democrats have 47 seats and the Republicans have 53. And the Democrats need 51 seats for an outright majority and 50 seats because if Joe Biden wins the presidency, the vice president, which would be Kamala Harris, would break the tie in favor of the Democrats. I'm going to characterize all of the safe states for the Democratic Party, and I think that's it. And for the GOP, the rest of these states are at least somewhat competitive. So, with 15 toss-up races, all we need to do is draw a conclusion where the Democrats end up winning 5 out of these 15 because the final results of a net 3 gain for the Democrats, 47 plus 3, is 50. And, just because they are picking up 4 seats, I don't think Alabama's going to retain for the Democratic column. Honestly, that one seems to be a lost cause for the Democrats. But there are some states where I am very confident that the Democrats will perform very well in. Even if, let's say, the race doesn't go too well on the presidential level for the Democrats, which it probably will, but let's say it doesn't, I still don't see most of these Senate candidates losing, or in some cases, actually, I think all of these people are facing against incumbent Republicans, which makes sense. I mean, you're gaining 4 seats and a net gain of 3. So let's go ahead and get rid of some of these more likely and lean Republican states and talk about the true toss-ups that I think will land the Democrats with an eventual majority, assuming Joe Biden wins the election, but a 50-50 tie in the Senate. Kansas, I think that it's a lean GOP state right now. Going to characterize it that way. Mississippi's likely. South Carolina's likely. Alabama's likely for the GOP. Georgia Senate special elections likely. So all of these states I'm going to take out of consideration along with Alaska and, Texas. These states are not going to be talked about too much in this video. But let's talk about the remaining 8 toss-up races and talk about which ones I think, first of all, 2 of them I absolutely think the Democrats are going to carry regardless of who wins the presidency and regardless of who wins Senate control. I think that the Democrats will get at least 2 seats from the Republicans without a doubt. And the remaining 2 seats, I am confident that today, if the Senate elections were held today, that the Democrats would easily pick up these 4 seats in total and then could possibly expand on that map. But looking at the states that I'm talking about, we'll actually get to those in just a second. We actually have to look at this Senate map. We have races in Montana and Iowa and North Carolina, all with Republican incumbents. We have Republican incumbents in actually all but, I believe, Michigan in this toss-up map. So we have a Republican incumbent in Arizona, very unpopular. In Colorado, very unpopular. In Montana, and with popularity, Iowa, same thing. Georgia, again, a lot of energy on the Democratic Party side, but will it be enough? Probably not, but we'll talk about that in North Carolina and Maine. These are all states with Republican incumbents. As for Michigan, this is a state that the Democratic Party currently has an incumbent in, and I think that Gary Peters will win it by a likely margin. Honestly, I shouldn't have characterized it if I already characterized the likely and lean states. But this leaves 7 toss-up races where I could say these next 4 pickups for the Democrats come from. All of these have a Republican incumbent. So I think the first 2 are pretty obvious. I'll start with the most obvious one, and that is the state of Colorado. This will be an easy pickup for the Democrats. While there isn't any conclusive data in the Senate election, there's literally no data provided. On the presidential level, Joe Biden has a pretty strong lead. It's a 10-point lead, and granted, this was taken I guess fairly recently, but I do think that we should go ahead and take a look at the data that's being provided on not just RCP, but on the FiveThirtyEight average. Biden is up 13.5%. Looking at the Senate polls that have been released. Okay, I dropped my phone. The Senate polls that have been released, all of them have good numbers for John Hickenlooper. And John Hickenlooper is the former governor. He's easily going to carry the Senate race. I don't see any possibility of Cory Gardner winning this race, even in the Republican Party's best case scenario. They're not holding on to Colorado. The next state I would characterize as a state that the Democrats are easily going to carry is the state of Arizona. Now, this state, I could definitely see how the Democratic Party is going to sweep this race. Right now, Mark Kelley is up 7.4% on average. And the unfortunate thing about Martha McSally is, while she is the incumbent, she also lost the most previous Senate race. That's right. She would hand the Democrats 2 Senate seats in the span of 2 years alone. And looking at this Senate race, she ended up losing by 2.3%. It wasn't less than a percentage point, and it didn't match what the polls indicated. In 2016, Trump was supposed to carry this race by the state by 4%. He carried it by 3.5%. So it's been pretty accurate before, overestimating Republicans just slightly. And now, overestimating Republicans still at still under the Democrat by 7.4%. Mark Kelley, I think, is going to easily take this Senate race away. And honestly, it's a waste of money for the GOP at this point. It may be close on the presidential level, but Martha McSally is only hurting Donald Trump's reelection chances in this state. So Arizona, Colorado, 2 flips for the Democrats, likely for them. I mean, the GOP had so many nominees that they could have put in that Arizona Senate race, many GOP nominees that could have rated that state as possibly lean or even likely Republican. But, Doug Ducey put up literally the candidate who lost 2 years prior, and now she's facing a very tough, not really re-election bid, but first election, but she's an incumbent, so I wouldn't know necessarily what to call it, but she's definitely not going to win that race. And I couldn't see a possibility for her winning there. But for the Democrats, like I said, they are losing Alabama, so they're going to need to carry 2 more seats in order to take a majority if Joe Biden wins the election, and then an outright majority would be 3 seats. But this video is going to be about how the Democrats will pick up at least 4 seats, and I think the next one's actually a little bit more obvious. We're talking about Maine, this northeastern state where Susan Collins, who granted was very popular before, not so much now, 2014, she won by 37% against a Democrat. And yes, this was a Republican wave year. So let's take that for example. Let's go to 2008. 23 points in terms of a victory for Susan Collins. Was not even close. So what was the reason for that? Well, Susan Collins has always been labeled as a bipartisan senator since she came in the 90s. And her entire, campaign has been riding on the fact that she's a Republican, but she does switch over and vote against party lines. I mean, she was praised by a number of Democrats when we were talking about key votes in 2017, 2018, and then the Kavanaugh vote went. And that's when she lost a lot of credibility amongst the citizens in Maine, because she went from being the most popular senator, I'll say it 100 times if I have to, she went from being the most popular senator to the most unpopular senator in 4 years. Isn't that crazy? She was liked more than Bernie Sanders in his own home state. And now, the only senator who defeats Mitch McConnell in terms of dislike rating. So, Susan Collins, she definitely could win this election, but as of right now, Sarah Gideon, very well-known name throughout the state. We're seeing a lot of energy for her there. Joe Biden's going to completely outperform Hillary Clinton's numbers there. I mean, she won it by what? 3% in 2016? He's up 12% in that state. So that's pretty significant. It may not be a return to 2012, 2008 Obama numbers, but then again, Obama was a one-in-a-lifetime candidate. And unfortunately for the Democrats, Donald Trump was as well. But that one-in-a-lifetime candidate may not make it past this re-election bid. And for the Democrats, I would say they should be pretty comfortable with where they are in the presidential race. The Senate race definitely will be closer. There's still a number of Democrats that are pouring over into the Susan Collins column, but I will say that this state, I think the Democrats will carry through Election Day if the numbers hold as they do today. If the election was held today, Sarah Gideon would win that Senate race. So the next state, the final state, let's talk about what state it isn't going to be. It's not going to be Iowa. Now, I understand that there is the idea that Joni Ernst could lose. She very well could. This could be the 51 for the Republicans, for the Democrats. But Joni Ernst, while maybe not being too popular, she's running in a state that Trump won by nearly 10% in 2016. Iowa, I still expect to go to Trump on Election Day. I absolutely think that that will be enough to put Joni Ernst over the top. As much as Democrats would love to see Teresa Greenfield in the Senate, unfortunately for her, she's working in a very unfortunate state. I mean, it's no longer truly a swing state. It's only a swing state when the Democrats are up 9% nationwide. But moving past Iowa, let's take a look at the other state that it's not going to be, and it's not going to be Georgia. I mean, Jon Ossoff, sure, could very well have a close race here, but I don't think that it's going to be enough to either win it or for the Democrats even to rely on Georgia. I understand that it's been changing in favor of the Democrats fairly recently and very rapidly, but this election, it's not going to be enough to put Georgia over the top for the Democrats. So those 16 electoral votes seem very far, and Texas is more in play than Georgia, to be completely honest. Maybe not in the Senate level, though. Jon Ossoff definitely is going to put up a good fight, but we probably won't see him come out on top after Election Day. So North Carolina and Montana, which state will it be? Well, it's going to be North Carolina. So Montana I'm going to characterize as a lean GOP state, but let's go ahead and take a look at the reason why I think that North Carolina will go to the Democratic Party. Now, while Cal Cunningham's lead has dwindled from where it was before, I mean, this is an unprecedented lead against an incumbent senator. You can see how quickly in the span of a couple of days, it went from being a 44% vote share for Cal Cunningham up to a 50% vote share. So a 6% increase for him, a 10-point lead over Tom Tillis, and now the most recent poll actually has him up 10%, but the overall average is 4.8%. And honestly, Tom Tillis, he's mildly popular. He's not hated. He's not liked. I don't honestly think that he's going to do too well on Election Day, especially if the election was held today. We're seeing a lot of increased expected turnout amongst the African-American voting population, which will easily land the Democrats in a much better position in North Carolina than where they were just 4 years ago. They lost the state by 3.7%. The Democratic Party is in a much better position this time around. They're leading in North Carolina on 538. Cal Cunningham is completely outperforming Joe Biden. So even if Biden loses by 1%, Cal Cunningham will probably win by 2-3%. And imagine if Biden wins. Easy win for the Cunningham campaign. So North Carolina, I think, will be the fourth state that the Democrats will easily pick up if everything goes to plan, if this continues through Election Day, because not even one point in time you can see on the overall average where Tom Tillis had a very deafening lead over Cal Cunningham, similar to what Cal Cunningham has even currently. I mean, a 5-point lead against an incumbent. Before Trump, that was unheard of because Romney never led by that much. Looking at the numbers, it was very difficult for us to see how, especially in a Senate race too, in a state that's a GOP state, the Democrat came out on top very early on. Everyone said, oh, it'll dwindle. And it did for a short period of time. And then all of a sudden, for whatever reason, the end decided it's broke for the Democrats. And it looks like they still are going to. But there still is a lot of things to worry about for the Democrats. They could still lose the Senate race, but I'm saying right now on track, they are on track to carry this race. And if the election was held today, I would characterize all 4 of these as pickups for the Democrats, despite Alabama being a pickup for the Republicans. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Make sure to comment down suggestions below. Subscribe on the left if you haven't already, and check out the Instagram and Twitter. At the bottom left of the screen, there's also a Discord link for you to go ahead and join. On the screen, there's a video you can watch, and then a playlist for my 2020 Senate election videos. Just go ahead and watch them if you want to. You don't have to. Again, thank you guys so much for watching. Please consider joining as a member on my channel, and I will see you all tomorrow.